I'm Tony Hagen, Senior Editor for the Center for Biosimilars. Today we're talking with Thomas Wakim, Strategic Analyst for Neuclone, a biosimilar developer based in Sydney, Australia. Recently, Neuclone announced that it was adding PD-1 inhibitors to its biosimilar development pipeline. Neuclone aims to develop PD-1 inhibitors for the blockbuster products pembrolizumab, otherwise known as Keytruda, and nivolumab, also known as Opdivo. Both drugs have been on the market for half a decade. They are indicated for numerous settings in oncology, and their patient outcomes have been spectacular. They also enjoy phenomenal annual sales, which makes them a good target for biosimilar producers. Their patent exclusivity could start to end in 2027. We sat down with Wakim to discuss Neuclone's interest in replicating these products. Neuclone is among the first companies to publicly announce interest in developing biosimilars of pembrolizumab and nivolumab. What interests Neuclone in these two products and producing biosimilar versions of them, nivolumab and pembrolizumab?
Yeah, so I guess to start off with, from a clinical and patient perspective, since these two products were introduced about 5 years ago, they've dramatically improved the prognosis for many different cancer patients across a range of different indications. And so we see the great benefit that these medicines have been having to so many different patients. And so we want to be able to develop more affordable versions of these biosimilars so that it's not only those people who are in geographic locations where they can affordably gain access, or patients who have the financial position to pay for the originator molecules. But we also want to bring more affordable versions so that patients all around the globe who are suffering from these variety of oncology indications can receive these treatments. And I guess if we look at the commercial side as well, these two products are some of the biggest products in the world at the moment, and they're only forecasted to continue growing into the future. I think at the moment, their sales are around about $20 billion per year. And so we see from a biosimilar standpoint, there's a great opportunity to introduce cheaper, more affordable versions of these drugs to really bring down that healthcare expenditure and allow many more patients around the world to gain access to what are incredibly effective and beneficial oncology treatments.
What is the current annual cost for treatment with either of these two drugs? Do you have a sense of what patients are putting out for these?
Yes, well, so it varies country by country, and unfortunately, what we see, I guess, in the US is typically where patients have the most expensive treatments. So the prices for these drugs are most expensive. It's difficult to know exactly what the cost is and who's paying for what, but certainly with a lot of these oncology products, we see upwards of over $100,000 per year in many cases to have a full annual course of these treatments. And so it is very expensive, and many patients obviously can't afford that level of spending if they don't have comprehensive insurance or otherwise can source these products.
The patent expirations for these products are very important, and you must have taken a close look at when you think you can bring these products to market, and coordinated that with your development process. Can you explain what your timing is, and what markets would be most appropriate for you?
Yeah. So as you mentioned, patent expiry is incredibly important for biosimilar developers. It reflects, when we can enter the market. And so with these two products, they are quite distant expiring products. They've themselves only been available, I think, for about 5 years now. And so there is still quite a significant window until that exclusivity period does run out. And while biosimilars do have a more abbreviated development timeline compared to, say, an originator molecule, it is still quite a time-consuming process to do the preclinical and the clinical stages that are still required. And so while there is still a significant window, we envision that probably towards the late 2020s, at least that's what the originator companies have reported publicly that the patents on these products will begin to expire. And so that gives us quite ample time to conclude our preclinical activities of these biosimilars, and in the coming years enter phase 1 and possibly phase 3 clinical trials, so that ahead of that exclusivity period of that ending, we can have our biosimilars completed their development, approved and ready to enter the market, so that from day one we can really start to bring in affordable versions of these products, rather than having that lack of competition. And so you see originator products just continually increasing their prices when that competition doesn't exist.
Do you have you picked out any particular markets? I know you work closely with the Serum Institute in India. So is there a country or a number of countries that you find most attractive early on to begin with?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I think first and foremost for all of our products, really, the US and European regulatory standards are what we try and adhere to. We definitely view those as great opportunities where there's been a lot of biosimilar experience to date, and the patients and providers are very familiar with biosimilars in those regions. And so we look to follow EMA and FDA guidelines. And by doing so, we are able to leverage approval in those regions for several other jurisdictions. For example, our Neuclone local home market here in Australia, they adopt EMA guidelines very closely. And so we envision that with an approval, say, in Europe from the EMA, it would allow us to, with relatively smoothly, bring our products into the Australian market through the TGA, as many other biosimilars have done in the past. And certainly not just Europe, not just USA and Australia, but many other countries such as India, as you mentioned, which is the home market of our manufacturing partner, Serum Institute. We really are emphasizing trying to bring these products to as big of a global patient audience as we can.
What type of competition is out there? Is there anybody else racing to bring these biosimilars to market, or do you think at this point you have the field to yourselves?
We definitely don't think we have the field to ourselves. I think, as we've seen to date, biosimilars can be a very competitive space, particularly with a lot of these products, as I mentioned, that are quite mega blockbusters where the sales are in many billions of dollars. They represent really favorable commercial opportunities for biosimilar developers. And so we're envisioning, with Keytruda and Opdivo being the huge markets that they are, that there will be many biosimilar players looking to develop their own versions of these products. I think you only need to look at a couple of examples today of where similar situations exist. Products like Humira, which is the world's biggest selling drug. There's at least 5 or 6 biosimilars available in Europe, and a similar number that are looking to enter the US. And so we do envision a high level of competitiveness, but we do feel that through our partnership with Serum and the work we do here at Neuclone, that we're pretty well positioned to compete in these price competitive and intensive markets when they do form.
Are there any special challenges with bringing a PD-1 inhibitor into development besides the routine for biosimilars? You guys are already well versed in working on biosimilars. So what do you anticipate?
Yeah, so I guess it's difficult to comment in the future clinical challenges that lay ahead. But what we can really focus on here at Neuclone is what we've focused on for at least the last 5 years now, and that is the initial and early preclinical stages of development and doing the comprehensive science and technical development to get these products ready to enter the clinic. And as opposed to originator molecules where we see the greatest risk is in the clinical side of development, biosimilars, as is often described, the greatest technical challenge is in the early preclinical activities. And so that's what really we've been focusing on here at Neuclone. And that's what is through our Neumax platform has allowed us to develop a whole range of upwards of 20 biosimilars, including Opdivo and Keytruda candidates. And with those 2 specific ones, we haven't encountered any exceptionally difficult issues. Obviously, every molecule is quite different, but with these two, we're really happy with how they're progressing. We've got great high quality products that are producing very well. And so we really are looking forward to bringing these products into the clinic in the next couple of years. The next step is figuring out exactly what that clinical program would look like. But what we've seen recently in a couple of great papers is that from all the biosimilars developed to date, the success rate in phase 1 and phase 3 clinical trials is incredibly high. And so the emphasis on the early stage and the preclinical activities is very important. So getting that done early really reduces the risk that any differences would arise later in the clinical stages. So we're feeling quite confident about these molecules and feeling pretty positive about their outlook moving forward.
What's the role of Serum Institute as your partner in this venture?
Yep. Yeah, so Serum Institute are our manufacturing co-development partner. And so typically what happens in our co-developed products is that Neuclone develops the products initially. We confirm the biosimilarity of the product and bring it to a certain stage and scale in-house in our lab facilities here in Sydney. And then Serum Institute take that product and scale it up for manufacture to supply clinical trials and ultimately commercial supply of the product. We have a partnership with Serum for 10 products. And so Keytruda and Opdivo are 2 of those. And all of our other disclosed products so far to date are also with Serum Institute. And so we've had a really successful partnership over these first few years. We've been able to develop some really great biosimilars and get them into the clinic and prove that they meet all the biosimilar standards in terms of PK, safety, as you would expect in these clinical trials. And so we're really looking forward to taking our partnership to the next step with Serum Institute as we eventually get approval for these products and we can really see that large scale manufacture that Serum is so well known for, traditionally in the vaccine business, now be applied to their biosimilar business through our Neuclone products, where we have incredibly large scale production of our biosimilar products.
You mentioned 10 disclosed products. Can you tell us what those are and which are closest to the market?
Yeah, certainly. So we've got 10 with Serum and 8 of those have been disclosed publicly. And I guess just to quickly name them, they're Herceptin, Stelara, Prolia, Perjeta, Synagis, Humira, Keytruda, and Opdivo. So there are the 8, and then the other 2 within Serum, and then the other 10 that we're working on independently are all undisclosed at this point. But some of the nearer term products in that partnership would be our Herceptin and our Stelara biosimilar candidates. And those are the 2 clinical stage products that we have today. So in our overall strategy, we see products such as Stelara coming into the market first, and then that will be followed by several other products, including our PD1, Keytruda, and Opdivo biosimilars further on into the long term. And so we envision having these multiple products coming through development and onto the market successively over a long period of time.
You came out with an announcement that you intend to go after these 2 drugs. Was there any strategy besides the general announcement that led you to make that announcement, or was there something more to it?
I mean, there's nothing incredibly detailed to it. We have a range of products in our pipeline, and so we felt that with Keytruda and Opdivo, we had developed these sufficiently to a point where we were comfortable in really announcing to the world that, hey, we have these biosimilars, they're looking great, and we're really confident in them. And so it was more from that perspective, really just being fully confident that the products of these Keytruda and Opdivo originators were looking really good, and we're really confident in them and being able to bring them through the clinic in the coming years. So it was more from that perspective.